Morning, 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 morning. Good morning, Roxanne. Thank you so much for my brooms. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning. Rukmin Gangadine, morning, Rukmin. Alberta Sampath, morning, morning, Lynette. Cyril, morning to you. Donna Walcott, morning. Ruben Rogers, morning. Dish, morning. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady, Marissa Kagan. Allison, morning. Morning, Diane. Morning, Merle. Maria Lyons, morning to you. Morning, Carol. Claudette Jeffrey, Ruth Fronton, morning. Lisa Atwater, Gerald Pascal, morning. Ruben Rogers, Jeremy Lewis. Freddie Williams, morning. Earl Turpin. Anna Sisnett, morning, Anna. Morning, Kathleen. Teresa Francis, good morning to you. Daryl Nanton, morning, sir. Morning, Joy. Lestro de Matas, morning. Marva James, Gemma Alexander. Jennifer Ferron, morning. Everton Lewis, morning to you, sir. Arlene Lewis, Teresa Francis. Morning to all of you guys. Right, let me jump into it because I have to duck out a little early this morning. I have a few things to do before I leave for my trip later this week. Nicole Graves, morning. Denise Reed. Margaret Thomas. Cheppy 65, morning to you all. 6:38. Morning, Leon Graves, John Edwards. So, yeah, as I said, let me just jump straight into it. So I saw last night the resumption of the Monday night report, what they call it, previously called the Monday Night Forum. But listening to a couple of the speakers last night, I think they need to go back to the old name, the Monday Night Forum. Because listening just to Munilal alone, again, every time I listen to Rudal Munilal, I am convinced, as I keep saying, the UNC is a circus. And this man, I don't know if it is he's rehearsing for when he eventually leaves office as a parliamentarian to perhaps take up start a new career as a comedian. But I would want to tell him, don't leave his day job. Eh? So it was another episode of Amateur Night at the Hawk and Spit, with starring King Clown, or Clown on Rollerblades, Rudal Munilal. This man always really needs to, everything he needs to trivialize and make jokes about. So, but I'm not going to go too much into them today because, as I said, one, I have short time this morning, and two, I didn't get to digest most of them. It was difficult to get back into the groove of listening to the trash that they offer you as a cottage meeting, as the political leader mentioned last night. They will be doing a series of cottage meetings rather than having these big mass meetings. Judging from the turnout last night, she must have been a bit disappointed, and maybe that's why they adopted the term cottage meeting. Because it was really a cottage meeting. There were a number of empty chairs. If you visit the UNC Cabal's Facebook page, you would see that while Mrs. Prasad Bissessa was speaking, there were a number of empty seats. And you would think that with the resumption of the Monday night report, Monday night forum, you would have had a full house, at least for the first one. That was Nikki's. And especially since his first meeting was in UNC Heartland. But That was, yeah. So, anyway. So I listened to a little bit of Jolene when I remember that they had their meeting last night and I tuned in. Jolene was speaking, and she was speaking just before Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. And I wish that the officials in the UNC would stop lying when it comes to the issue of these hospitals. Because again, last night, Jolene John come to talk about the UNC started the Arima Hospital and the UNC started the Point Fortin Hospital. And if they hadn't started it, the PNM wouldn't have done so. Well, you turn sod. How many times we will mention that? You all turned sod on the 7th of May, 2015, exactly 4 months to the election day in 2015. You turned sod. Kamla, Fuad Khan, a couple others, Munilal, and I think a couple officials from a couple Chinese or whoever. Or you put some sand in an enclosure with a few concrete blocks, right? You tie some ribbon on 2-3 shovels and all you toss some sand. That is what you did. That was all. No hospital was built. There was no financing, no funding in place. So I do understand how it is you all could have started hospital. But want to take responsibility for and ownership of the Arima Hospital and the Point Fortin Hospital. I was surprised they didn't say that they started the Grandi Hospital too. But as if that wasn't bad enough, she decided to compound the matter to claim that they constructed the teaching hospital, which, as we know, was supposed to be the Chancery Lane administrative complex, which was started by the Manning administration with the intention of providing office space for government ministries, government departments, similar to government campus in Port of Spain. And the intention behind that was to reduce the government's annual rental bill, the money they're spending on rent, to rent private premises to house government ministries and government departments. So Mr. Manning was seeking to replicate in San Fernando what he did in Port of Spain, which today has saved this administration tens of millions of dollars. But that wasn't able to materialize because Mrs. Prasad Bisesa got the bright idea. Let us turn this building, because of its close proximity to the San Fernando Hospital, let us repurpose it and turn it into a teaching hospital. But even that, Jolene John, who was at the time the chairman of UDCOT, I believe, and the managing director of the HDC, want to come and take responsibility and say, yes, we did that. Really, Jolene? Really? Just like with the Arangwes interchange, all they wanted to take responsibility for that too, take ownership of that, which started under Mr. Manning. When you all came in, it was halfway through. You all simply finished it, unfortunately, because the election was called early in 2010, and you had a few soft-fed PNMIs who take chain up and went and gave their support to the PP. And you all came in while these projects were almost complete. The interchange, the Grand Bazaar interchange as well, which was well underway, and you all simply completed it. The most noteworthy thing that you all would have done with respect to that project was to take out the traffic lights and make a Christmas tree right by the just before the roundabout there, and that's Road Rambachan. That traffic light Christmas tree that is still there as a reminder, right? That you all were in office between 2010 to 2015. But the things all they want to claim and say, I mean, ease us up with that. Well, I figure everybody's at the waterfront there. Our memories are short. We don't know what it is that happened between 2010 to 2015. Well, I couldn't listen to the leader in full last night because I was sleepy. I was tired. And she spent probably the first 10 to 15 minutes of her presentation providing them. She was supposed to provide the main entertainment. So she was DJ. Or I should put it by DJ 7 digits, right? So she decided to get him back in times. Put up a set of newspaper articles from 2010 to 2015, talking about all the handouts that she gave between 2010 to 2015, rather than giving handouts. So she had to talk about how when she was in office and she was prime minister, every year they used to give out toys to the children, 50,000 toys and so on, and Rowley abandoned that and the PNM, and we have Christmas coming up, and if she was prime minister, they would have been giving out toys and so on. And where did the money come from, Mrs. Prasad-Visesa, for this 50,000 toys that you used to give out every year? Where the money came from? The treasury? Was that allocated? Was there an allocation for that in the budget? And if so, under which ministry? Under which ministry was money allocated to purchase 50,000 toys every year for the children of Trinidad and Tobago so you could play Mrs. Claus? Yeah? I'm going to go to say Mrs. Clown, but that too. Which ministry? And if it wasn't identified under any ministry and it didn't come from the treasury, where did the money come from? Which one of your many financiers used to provide the money for these toys? And what was the kickback that they used to get for this money? So you could play Mrs. Claus all over the place, stand up in the back of in the tray of one of those panel van and going all over the place waving and handing out toys. Which one of your financiers benefited? I know we heard about SIS. Mr. Lala was one that was identified. What about the rest? What contracts were given to be able to funnel this money so you could buy 50,000 toys every year and come and pat yourself on the shoulder and say, see, that is what I used to do. And Rowley ain't doing that because Rowley is a Grinch. Or we gave out, during my time, we gave out 4,100 hampers. 100 hampers for each constituency, and Rowley the Grinch told his members of parliament do not take do not accept it was by was it the gift baskets or something? So anyway, and the hampers and whatever it is that she gave out, because he's a Grinch and he don't care about people. And you know how many of his MPs came to us silently and said, "Oh gosh, only give us the hampers now so we could give out, but don't tell Rowley, yeah." Really? Mr. Prasad-Visesa, what about the 10 million you wanted to give to each constituency? How did that ever pan out? She boasted she gave $55 million to the churches to assist the poor. And Rowley had a problem with that because he said she was trying to buy the Christian community and so on. But the members of the ecclesiastical movement were so happy to receive the 55. Well, of course they were happy, Mrs. Prasad-Visesa. It's money. It's free money. $55 million. How much you gave to the Hindu community for the mandirs and the temples and so on? When in the lead up to the 2015 general election, you all were repairing and constructing mandirs and temples all over the place with taxpayers' money. So he said, well, if we had to do that, and they will find out, so let me take a little thing and let me fool them pastors and them now. You get them a little something. 55 million of the very best. Was that budgeted for, Mrs. Prasad-Visesa, or just on a whim? They say, well, let me do something. So she comes, all these things, this woman presented about at the time I stopped looking, she was on article number 5. Talking about, we mustn't go back to 2010 to 2015. No. What we're doing is going back in the past and we're talking about Kamla. But she came last night to talk about herself. Kijan, you put up that article there for me, please. Yes, it's looking so nice, Kijan. Y'all see, look at all the things that I did. Color me orange. Julian John boasting last night about color me orange. $69 a day for 3 months to paint buildings. Yeah? But only come up to the Hilton so we could launch the program. But just note, you will meet a heavy contingent of guard and emergency and riot police dressed in riot gear, right? But face shields and body shields and baton. So in case any of them never come see from East Dry River, yeah, that's how they treated them. In case any of them never come see from Dry River, decide to get out of line, the police could treat you all as you deserve to be treated. Yeah? Give all you some good licks. Mash up 2-3 of your ribs, knock out a few of your teeth. Yeah? Drag your face all over the ground as a white man, and then take all you down in the Maria and put a charge on your tail. That is what. And then when you reach inside now, hands to teacher Kamla. Hands up, out, down. All right, or let us go to recess. Beating your chest about that. You proud of Color Me Orange and Baby Grant, $500 a month to make child. So your very first meeting, start back, first one you've had since the local election. That's what you come to do. To give us a back in times what all the things that you did, all the handouts that you gave to the poor. How did that help them? Did that improve anybody's situation? Can anybody say, well, yes, as a result of Color Me Orange today, I own my own business? That $69 a day that I was getting, it really, really helped me to be able to build. I was able to put up 2 additional rooms, add 2 additional rooms to my house. Anybody could see that, Mrs. Basad Bisasa? Anybody could say, well, as a result of that $500 a month to make child, today, I'm now the holder of a bachelor's degree in something because the goodly Prime Minister and the PP government gave me $500 a month to make child. Anybody could come and boast about that? No, but you come on last night to talk about it. Well, as I said, I wasn't able. I started to fall asleep by myself. I said, you know what, when I have time, I will listen. I don't know if I'll have time today, because I have to prepare for an AGM for the National Trust AGM tomorrow. So the whole matter that. Yeah, so we will see once it is that I'm able to squeeze out some time for Tuesday to do the live. I will see if I could touch on that, but I'll probably try and listen to a little more Monilal today, as difficult as it may be. Just had to swing by the pharmacy and pick up some Gravol, a little Pepto-Bismol or something like that, and then yeah, I'll see what could happen. But he's only too proud to post up. She also announced that as of next month, the UNC will be opening nominations for the general election, which is due in 2025. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, because this is not the first time that we've heard that. But we know they already picked their candidates already. I don't know who it is that they're trying to fool. But yes, we're going to open nominations. So if you're interested, did you consult with Gary the Great, Mrs. Basad Bisasa, about opening of nominations? Because you all have a partnership. So how many seats Gary the Great and the NTA going to contest? You like, she don't realize you no longer have the authority to make statements like this unless you consult Gary the Great. And then you all intend to invite other parties. You all want to form a repeat of 2010, another coalition and so on. So how you're opening nominations in December for UNC, when it is that we know you're coming in 2024 at the start of 2025 to call all these smaller parties, let us come together and let us unite together. I don't know if you could unite apart, but I'd love to talk about unite together so that we can form a coalition to beat the PNM. So that is our fast. We're talking about when we know elections is ready and the UNC is ready for election and we will win. That was the mantra last night from Molada. Rest assured, we will win. Victory is ours. Yeah, that's the same thing you say in 2015. It didn't happen. You come again in 2020. Victory! That didn't happen either. And what is the evidence that the UNC is on track to win the next election? They get 43,000 more votes than the PNM in the recently concluded local election. If delusional was a party, so is hypocrisy and delusion. That's what you got last night. And we keep repeating. In 2019, you all got 202,000 votes. The PNM got 161,000. Right? 2019. It had no Gary the Great. There was no Jack is back. Without Gary and Jack, you all got 202,000 votes. 2023, with Gary the Great and Jack is back, you all got 189,000 votes. So you got less votes with Jack is back and Gary the Great than you did in 2019 on your own. And they define that as ascendancy. Yes, according to Monilal, it is the citizenry are the final arbiters. And based on the results of that election, we know that the citizenry is fed up with the PNM. Well, I want them to keep on that same mindset. Let that be the evidence that you are going to win. Because if you didn't learn your lesson in 2019, where the PNM got 161,000 in December 2019, and 8 months later, they were able to get 322,000 votes, double what they got in the local election. Yeah? And the UNC didn't win. And we have a sort of a repeat, and I think this time you will win. Where you have a man who is before the court on charges for fraud, $1 million bail. You have another member of parliament who is currently under police investigation for human trafficking, prostitution, and other things. You have another MP who should be under police probe, well, at least 2 MPs, one from Siparia and one from Princestown, who should be under probe by the Integrity Commission and the police with respect to the $135,000 that was given to Mrs. Prasad Pisesa. And the person who gave it to her can't remember why he gave it to her. Yeah, 3 years later, no follow-up from Mark Besant. So it was a story then, but it's not a story today. No, and again, I love to use this term from Mr. Hines. They give us half the story and chinks in with the rest. So Mark Besant give us a cliffhanger, right? You went and you do all of this in-depth investigation. You present this series, newspaper article, and so on. You brought this information into the public domain, and then you left us hanging. We want the outcome. Where is the conclusion? Where is part 2? We want the sequel. What's going on? What's going on? These are the things that we want to hear about. And that's what I always say. If such an allegation had been made against Dr. Rowley, the UNC wasn't going to let up. We would have been hearing that from now until. They would have filed a Freedom of Information request on the police service to find out what is the status of that investigation, whether or not there's an investigation ongoing. They would have filed a Freedom of Information request on the Integrity Commission to find out whether or not an investigation was started into that matter, because we want to know. We want to know what that $135,000 was for. And every time I raise that issue, I always make the point. If I gave the Prime Minister $135,000, I must remember. If I lend somebody $1,000, I will remember. If I give you $500 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I would remember. Right? And this is just some obscure person. So if a man who was at the time the official post carrier, the handbag toter, that was his official position. He had no government work. He wasn't subject to the Integrity Commission at the time, the Integrity in Public Life Act. He wasn't a public servant. Yeah? His work was to tote purse, tote handbag, yeah, and stand up behind camera and smile. $135,000. And your excuse was, well, what Kamala says, because the credit card failed, the official credit card. In the 8 years that Dr. Rowley has been Prime Minister, 8 going on 9 years, he has traveled several times, as they have been complaining, and they complained about last night how much is about he racking up frequent flyer miles. Yeah, how much frequent flyer miles he thing, and he always flying all over the place and so on. But like they forget, they're talking about per diem, as Prime Minister had to reference yesterday, how much money, what was his per diem for this trip. But they're studying what was per diem for Vedawati when she was playing nurse for her sister. 2 therapies fall on your sister foot. She's a diabetic and she's hypertensive and she did a nurse. So every time she travel, you go in with her. How much money spent, taxpayers' money spent, so Vedawati could play nurse for her sister. But they didn't studying per diem. They weren't studying, but you know what? I feel I will file a Freedom of Information request to find out what was the per diem paid to Vedawati Newton between 2010 to 2015 when she was playing nurse for her sister. Since they want to go down that road and we want to play per diem, we could play that game. One hand clap. Yeah? What was Vedawati's per diem for India when she and her sister went to look for the roots in India at a cost of $15 million to the taxpayers? The trip to Washington, the trip to New York, all of these different things when she played news. What was the per diem? Munilal, why you didn't tell us that? But you're studying how much per diem Dr. Rowley thing. And then embarrassment in the backside. Couple days ago when he was talking about this trip the Prime Minister take, and Rowley fly out. Yeah? He abscond, leave the country in a state, going to Dubai and Saudi Arabia, and then he going to London, and he going here and there and everywhere. And we're going to be out of the country for so. Prime Minister spent less than a week outside. So of course the clown had to come and talk about that last night. Embarrassment, because he made an issue about that on several platforms about how the Prime Minister jet off and want to know how much this trip going to cost, and they show it going to be at least $3 million, and he's going to file a Freedom of Information request and put question in the Parliament. But I guess he was caught off guard when the Prime Minister came back so quickly. So last night he come now telling them, well, what happened was that Saudi Arabia paid for the trip and they funded the transportation costs for the heads. So they sent a plane to Dominica and to Barbados, and there were 3 drop-off points, and they pick out the people. And As soon as the summit was over, they packed Rowley on a plane and sent him back to Barbados because they didn't want him there. They didn't want him there. They kick him out, right? And so he come back home. If it is the prime minister needed to, let's get this in. If the prime minister needed to go to London and he needed to go to Dubai and wherever, last I checked, the same people who would have booked Kamla Persad-Bissessa's trip, for which the credit card that malfunctioned, causing her to have to spend over $135,000 of her own money on this trip, that they couldn't pick up the phone and call First Citizens Bank and let them know the prime minister's credit card. She couldn't pick up the phone and call the Minister of Finance, who was the former CEO of First Citizens, to say the prime minister's credit card has malfunctioned and we need to pay for all of these different things, so that the minister could pick up the phone and call, who was the head of First Citizens at the time, by Mr. Nath, say we need the prime minister's credit card is malfunctioning and there are things to be paid for. Fix it immediately. They couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. So she had to pull out her own personal private card. Swipe, 135,000 plus. Yeah? But again, as being King Clown last night talking about, yeah, they didn't want him in their country. So they pack him backside on a plane and send him back to Barbados, poor fella, and he come back home and he couldn't give us, and then he had a 2-hour press conference and couldn't tell us any of the benefits to be derived from that summit. You would swear that that was a summit between Dr. Rowley and the officials in Saudi Arabia. Dr. Rowley arranged that. It had no other Caribbean leaders there. This wasn't a CARICOM Saudi Arabia summit, the first one of its kind that was organized by Saudi Arabia. And they invited the leaders to come, let us have a sit down and discuss how Saudi Arabia could assist the Caribbean region, how we could partner with each other to benefit, for mutual benefit. No, when you listen to these clowns last night, one after the next, I don't know if Annie Roberts was there. I think they said that he and Big Bird from St. Augustine, they out in the cold right now. It's a good thing he wasn't there last night because, yeah. But clown after clown last night in that freak show, that amateur night at the Hawk and Spit. Yeah, every one of them that come up and want to attack the prime minister and so on and talk about the trip. You would say that the only Caribbean country that went to that summit was Trinidad and Tobago. The prime minister invited himself. So I didn't hear the people from Barbados calling on their prime minister what were the benefits. The people of Guyana. In fact, I don't even think any of these other prime ministers would have held that press conference. I haven't seen any. I'll probably go and see if I could search for it to say, well, okay, this is what happened. Let me brief you all, as our prime minister always does. Every time he travels, he makes sure either he has a press conference immediately when he comes back, or a few days later, he would hold that press conference to let the country know this is what happened, and this was the outcome of the trip, and this is what we can expect from this trip, and deal with other issues. We weren't getting that from Mrs. Persad-Bissessa. In fact, when she come back, you don't even know she's back in the country. But clown after clown last night. Yeah, Rowley jet off and Rowley went to Saudi Arabia and Rowley is a frequent flyer. Mentioned for the fact that Rowley didn't charter a whole jumbo jet from Caribbean Airlines, as was the norm under Mrs. Persad-Bissessa. Rowley didn't need to take a helicopter from Piarco to his personal residence in Glencoe. Or he didn't need to take a helicopter from Piarco Airport to go to the Prime Minister's residence. They're all up in their feelings, you know. We want to know how much money Rowley spent on this trip. Well, Passepartout told us, as he said last night, that Saudi Arabia paid for the, and Barry could talk about that. Barry would know. How Barry know about that? How Barry know about that? Between 2010 to 2015, Barry was no official, but Barry know about that. Don't know how. But if it is that you knew, and you could come last night to say, well, the Saudi Arabia government facilitated air transport. Right? So you say they have a 3 drop-off points, they pick out the people right. So then it didn't cost Trinidad and Tobago, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, any money with respect to transportation, which would have been the most expensive. So the only other thing that the Prime Minister would have had to spend money, and therefore, if it is that the Saudi Arabian government would have paid for the flight, it stands to reason they would have also picked up the tab for accommodation for these heads of government from CARICOM. So if Munilal knew that before, and those were the two main things that would cost money, the only other thing is the per diem, how much money the Prime Minister would have had to put out for meals and any other incidentals. But based on what Munilal said last night, it would appear that the Saudi Arabian government would have picked up the cost of all expenses, transport, hotel accommodation, and therefore that would include meals as well. And I don't think that when the Prime Minister wasn't there that long for him to say, well, here, I want to go shopping in one of the malls in Dubai. Let me go and do some sightseeing. I want to do a jet ski. And even if that was the case, I'm sure the Saudi Arabian officials would have picked up the tab for that too. So then where does $3 million bill coming from that the UNC expects? And why are you going to file a Freedom of Information request when, based on what you said last night, Saudi Arabia would have funded most of the costs of the trip? You see how these people are liars? But last night, yeah, Rowley suffering from liabetes. Liabetes. Yes, not diabetes, eh? Liabetes. Again, fancies himself to be a clown. There's another word I would use, but I need to keep it live friendly. Yeah? Suffering from liabetes. This man said he was going to Dubai and he was going to Saudi Arabia and then to Dubai and then to London and wherever else, and he was going to be out for 3 weeks and so on. But they didn't want him in the country. So, okay, if that is the case that you claim, you should be happy that the Prime Minister didn't stay out for long. Because you were complaining that he jet off when the country was at its darkest hour. But you're complaining now that the Prime Minister didn't stay out long enough. 2-3 days ago, you're complaining he gone. He leave the country in the lurch, right? To go on trip, on a long trip. And then today, you're complaining that he didn't stay out of the country long enough. Because he said he was going to and he didn't. So you have a problem. You had a problem with him leaving, and now you have a problem with him not keeping out of the country long enough. So he come back too quick. So he's scuttled now your ability to be able to criticize, to say, well, look at the crime situation in the country and the Prime Minister gallivanting all over the world. That was the plan. And you didn't get that opportunity, so you're vexed. So now you're complaining and saying, well, they didn't want him in the country, so they kick out the Prime Minister. According to him, they dump him back in Barbados like a bag of rubbish. Yeah? This is a member of Parliament talking about the Prime Minister. They continue with the disrespect. They continue with the disrespect. So Trinidad and Tobago signed an agreement with Saudi Arabia with a view to establishing direct links between the two countries in terms of direct flights between the two countries. None of them may talk about that. You want to know what is the benefits to be derived from this trip? But apparently they didn't hear that. They didn't see that article in the newspaper. So nobody saw it fit to talk about that. Yeah? Save and except for a few of their clueless supporters who decided to comment on a Guardian article speaking to Dr. Rowley's trip. And they want all of a sudden they're analysts and want to analyze why it's impractical to establish direct links. But a document was signed, nevertheless. In fact, I have not seen any other country, CARICOM country, sign such an agreement. Maybe I missed it. But so far, Trinidad and Tobago has signed that agreement, so now it's to work towards that, and we will see what else. But they listened intently yesterday to hear exactly all the things that the Prime Minister get. We're still waiting. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, I told you all, she decided to give us a back in times last night. I wish in that back in time she could have put up on the screen the article, $15 million wasted on India trip, and perhaps she could have go back in time and tell us what did we benefit from that. Since we were reminiscing about 2010 to 2015 and all the things that you did, you should have tell us how did we benefit from the $15 million India trip. What benefits did you bring back with you? Maybe you could ask Barry. Barry could tell us what benefits you came back with in your handbag that for the country. Since he was the official bag total. What benefits? The trip to South Africa, other than a photo op opportunity for you to say you went to Nelson Mandela funeral, according to Mr. Manning, dressed like a midnight robber. What benefits did we get from that? The trip to India, the trip to China, sorry, where you went and said, would I like that boat? I want one. What else did we get? The trip to Brazil when you took your grandson dressed as Spider-Man for the World Cup. What benefits did we get from that? Any of these trips? Like Munilal, I don't know. Like he forgets to. You see, they open up the door, and this is where again, forgive me, but I have to chastise the social media officer for the party. These people have opened the door for you to beat them left, right, and center on these issues. Where is the social media officer? Where is the public relations officer? They have handed you an opportunity on a platter to beat them to a frazzle on these issues, where they want to come and talk about Dr. Rowley's travels. They have opened the door for us to scrutinize Mrs. Prasad-Bisessa's travels, to highlight to the population the hypocrisy of that party. But all the trips that this woman made highlight the fact that Dr. Rowley never pulled no jumbo jet out of service to go and park up on the tarmac or park up in a hangar somewhere while he go on trip. And monies and Caribbean Airlines losing money because they have to pay the lease for this particular aircraft and then wet lease another aircraft for the time that the Prime Minister would have taken this aircraft out of service so that you could arrive in style in whichever country. After opposing Mr. Manning's idea to establish the executive jet service up at Piarco for the purchase of an executive jet, that when it is officials of the government of Trinidad and Tobago were using it, it would have been available for use by the private sector, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but around the Caribbean region. And if it is that other heads of government around the Caribbean wanted to use the jet, that they could pay and rent it, so that the jet would have paid for itself, and we would have had an additional income generating business up at the Piarco Airport. No, they malign it. Manning want to be a dictator, and Manning fancies himself to be a king, and he wants a private jet and all of that, and they beat it like a rented mule. And as was the norm, the soft-fed citizens take that. As Dr. Rowley had to point out yesterday, all of the different things that the UNC has done in the last 8 years to undermine the efforts of his administration to improve the lot of Trinidad and Tobago. He spoke about the Dragon gas deal in the early days when his administration came in, right? And the UNC wrote to the National Assembly in Venezuela, which was then controlled by the opposition, to tell them, do not support or sanction any deal, any Dragon gas deal between Rowley and Maduro, because the Rowley administration is an illegitimate administration. Because why? The EBC in Trinidad and Tobago, the body that is responsible for the conduct of elections, extended the voting time by 1 hour illegally. And therefore, fruit of the poison tree, the results of that election should be considered null and void and of no effect. And as a result of that, the Rowley administration is illegitimate and will be out of office soon. So do not ratify, do not support any deal between Maduro and Rowley. This was so much years ago, early on in the life of this administration. As Dr. Rowley had to say yesterday, I have woke up to my eyeball. But them vex and want me to come and sit down in crime talks to talk to Gary the Great. This disrespectful man, who at every turn disrespects the Prime Minister, but they expect Dr. Rowley to come and sit down next to him and say, Gary, how you going, boy? How things? How things? How the wife? How the family? Yeah? Yeah, man. And we're going to knock a glass after. Well, if for real, can't be serious. Cannot be serious. So so it's a deal breaker. If the Prime Minister doesn't come to the crime talks, they're not interested. Dr. Rowley has made it clear we don't want nothing to do with Gary. Judging from Gary's performance as Commissioner of Police, right? You see, there are things that we don't know about, and then I'll play it just now for you. Gary's response. So he listened intently, it seems, to the Prime Minister's press conference yesterday, armed with pen and notepad to write down how many times Dr. Rowley called his name. That was the primary focus of him listening. Yeah? So everything, he didn't listen, and then probably tell the rest of them, hey, what? While you were listening, So we can put out a post criticizing the trip and anything else. But I will just focus. I'm only tuning in my ears to hear how many times he mentioned the name Gary Griffith and the context in which he mentions it. Right? So he do a whole 2-3 minute live talking about Dr. Rowley and the crime talks and not wanting him to be a part of the crime talks. Well, you could be a part of the crime talks in absentia. In the same way, you were able to give Kamla Persad-Bissessar a whole thesis and a whole exegesis on crime and suggestions for her to read out in the parliament during her budget debate. Thank goodness if you didn't give her those talking points instead of 3.5 hours, her speech might have been 1.25. The same way, give them the same list and tell them, well, go and talk it. You could have a tutorial session and tell them what are the highlights of each point, and then let them, just let them repeat it and regurgitate it to you until you're satisfied that they will present it in the same way that you would have, and tell them go to the talks. That's all. You don't need to be there. You'll be there in spirit. Dr. Rowley don't plan to be there. He have important work to do. So that if and when he decides to demit office, that whoever is his successor is not going to find themselves in the same situation that he found himself when he came in as Prime Minister. With a stack of files, almost as tall as he is, but requiring signatures. Yeah? Because the hardest working Prime Minister, according to Gary, this country's history, couldn't find the time. She was so busy. She couldn't find the time to sign off on simple things. And as Dr. Rowley has told us on numerous occasions, he came into office as Prime Minister, and there were things that were languishing for about 2 years that needed the Prime Minister to sign off. But she was so busy. She was too busy to sign off these things. Simple things. Too busy. But when you're taking 5-day weekends, as Gary told us, obviously the files piling up. She don't have time for that. You come and you see this, oh God, not today, no? Not today. And next time she come back, oh cool. Like that thing get higher since the last time I was here, boy. Not today. Before you know it. That was it. Yeah? Not even her acting prime ministers. And there were many between 2010 to 2015, because remember the office of Prime Minister was Akobo Sweat. When between 2010 to 2015, every time Kamala leave the country, somebody else get a little stint. Yeah, put on my name on the list there. And we will roster who get in at 10 days the next time I fly out. They seem to forget. I think it was Vanilla Toppin, Jack, Dukaran, this other guy who was the union leader, Errol McLeod. I can't remember if Munila ever got a tush. I think Marlene Kudry at one time got a little tush. Yeah, it was the office of Prime Minister was a real Kobo Sweat. They had a roster. So who get in the 10 days this time? Not under Keith Rowley. One man has acted for the last 8 years, and that is Mr. Imbert. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Mrs. Robinson Regis acting thing at least once. Just even if it's at least once, right? Yeah. I mean, she's as senior as Mr. Imbert. So imagine if at any point in time Mr. Imbert is not available, Mrs. Regis would probably be next in line to act. And we have no problems with that. I have no problem with that, right? But that is what it was, a Kobo Sweat under her. But again, I ask, where is the social media officer? We should be flooding social media with articles. Since she opened up the floodgate last night, with articles of things that she did between 2010 to 2015. And she wanted to remind the population of why I should vote for her, because look, I did this and I did that. Well, we can remind the population of other things that you did, the 6.1 million you spent on helicopter rides. That should have been on social media already since last night. While she was yapping, that should have been put out long time. And every time they talk about Dr. Rowley trip, we should have had a whole collage of articles with trips that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar took, for which there was no benefit, little to no benefit for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Just saying. But I don't know, maybe it's in the works. Perhaps later on today or by tomorrow, we will see something come out, right? Anyway, let me know go down that road. I don't know. I'm sure the social media officer is doing his work. And the social media committee is probably doing their work. And I don't know what, anyway, let me leave that alone. let me leave that. Let me go on to as I said, I working with short time this morning, so let me deal with Gary the Great. This one. Get this here. Yeah, I don't like to listen to him too, but sometimes we have to listen. Get this here. Put this on. That reminds me, I have to pick up another device on this trip. So hopefully when I come back, we will have 2 numbers that you all can call instead of 1. Yeah, we had to expand. I mean, come on. A lot of people like to call in and give their piece. So it's time for us to get number 2. So I will treat with that when I head up on this trip. Let me get this here. Right. Let's connect this nicely. Just listen to a little bit of Gary the Great. The Prime Minister also weighed in on this issue with Mr. George and his use of the national anthem in his song. As the Prime Minister rightly said, there's a reason why we stand when the national anthem is played. There's a certain degree of reverence that is afforded to the national anthem, as is any national anthem in any country, whenever it is sung. Right? There's a reason why when our athletes go there and they do well and they medal and they're on the podium and they place first in their respective fields and the anthem is played, that you are required to stand at attention to show mark of respect. The Prime Minister is of the view that Mr. George's use of the national anthem in his one of his 2020 offerings is less than ideal. But the fact that it has not occurred, I think CNC3 would have interviewed Mr. George on the matter, and he would have said, well, right now, the population talking, and then, yes, they're having a conversation. So when they finish talk and they finish the conversation, then he will speak. When that will be, I don't know. But, yeah. Where is it? Where is Gary the Great? Yes. So, let us see.
Trinidad and Tobago, good day. This is Gary Griffith here. I just listened to Keith Rowley in a media conference. As usual, erratic, emotional, angry, trying to attack the whole world instead of looking in the mirror. So Keith Rowley decides to make a comment as it pertains to a question by a member of the media about his concern pertaining to Gary Griffith being in the anti-crime talks. And his response, in typical Keith Rowley style, is to try to mislead the country about speaking about things that he wished that he could say, but he can't say because the court has prevented him from doing so. Keith Rowley, look at what has happened in the country. When I was Commissioner of Police, public trust and confidence in the police service was 59%. It then went down to 8% after I left after 1 year. That was your doing. Under my watch, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. Since I left, it has now been the highest spike in crime. That is your doing. On my departure in August 2021, crime was the number 4 concern behind health, education, and the economy. It is now the major concern in the country. That is your doing. You are responsible for the situation the country is in right now. You are at fault. And the audacity, you, Keith Rowley, to state that you cannot state what you want to say because of the court blocking you. Try to be honest for once in your life. It is only illiterates could believe that when a politician could hire civilians and then let them write a report, pay them big money, and then you want to read out the report to try to make it look as if it was true. That is exactly what happened with Emailgate. You know very well, Keith Rowley, that Parliament is the one place that you can go and lie to the country, defame persons, and you cannot be sued. You did it with Emailgate, and you hope that you could have done it again. So, Keith Rowley, though this has nothing to do with the court preventing you from speaking, if you name man, if you have belly for once in your life, don't mislead the country to say that you cannot make any comments. You cannot make comments in Parliament. That is what the court prevented you from doing. You are free to make any comment in public. If you name man, I dare you, because as I said, Parliament is the one place where you could lie to defame persons and not be sued. Because if you make any comment pertaining to myself, and it is a lie, which you know it is, I will sue you for every cent you have, including of every golf club you have. So, Keith Rowley, you need to accept responsibility. It is because of your ego and your arrogance that the country is in the situation it is in. You cannot swallow your ego, swallow your pride, and do what is right for the country. So the country must continue to drown in blood because of the failure of you, Keith Rowley, and the incompetence of your government to provide citizens with their fundamental right of safety and security. And you prefer not to have support by those persons who have the ability to make this country safer. Keith Rowley, your time as a politician is coming to an end. You are going to be democratically removed soon enough.
A celebration of life.
Imagine Gary Griffith accusing Dr. Rowley of being consumed by ego. Really? The poster boy for ego accusing Dr. Rowley of having an ego problem. I want to tell Gary, the reason why you are no longer Commissioner of Police is because of your ego, sir. You couldn't keep it in check, right? During the time that you were, I wish, and perhaps you can, it would have been nice since you like to share information from your time as Commissioner of Police. Why you don't share some of the exchanges, the WhatsApp exchanges between yourself and the Prime Minister where you were disrespectful to the Prime Minister and prompting the Prime Minister to send a missive to the Police Service Commission indicating to them that he has lost confidence in you as Commissioner of Police. Mr. Griffith needs to remember, right, that the Prime Minister was instrumental in him becoming Commissioner of Police. In fact, in my discussions with a couple members of Parliament, the government side, after I would have interviewed them on my program on Synergy, off camera, speaking and so. A couple of them would have indicated they were not in support of Mr. Griffith becoming Commissioner of Police. They were not. But they supported Dr. Rowley's view and Mr. Griffith became Commissioner of Police. But Gary seems to forget that period of time when the government of Trinidad and Tobago, led by Keith Rowley, bypassed nominee number 1, bypassed nominee number 2, bypassed nominee number 3 on the merit list and selected him, nominee number 4. So he was not the first choice of the Police Service Commission to become Commissioner of Police when he did. But the government of Trinidad and Tobago decided, we'll give him a chance. Because the other persons, the 3 persons who are ahead of him, really and truly, the only real advantage that they have is that they have been career police officers. So they are intimately aware of the police service, right? But we hear, Gary talk, because plenty of people, talk. So talk about recidivism and the recidivism rate and the broken windows theory and so on. In his capacity as Minister of National Security, I think he brought what's the guy's name? By Bill Bratton or something. So who was Commissioner of Police in the US, in New York. I think he was responsible for bringing Giuliani, former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and so forth. And perhaps some of the things that he would have articulated in his capacity as Minister of National Security, Prime Minister probably thought, aside from the fact that he's a loudmouth and he braggadocious, you give him a chance. But within a short space of time, the Prime Minister would have lost confidence. So you could only lose something that you once had. So which means that there was a time when the same Keith Rowley that he likes to malign and disrespect now had confidence in you. He had confidence that you could do the work. He had confidence that you were the man to bring about the change that the government wanted to see with respect to crime in this country. And that confidence was lost after a time. So it was there once, Gary. Whose fault is it that that confidence was lost? So maybe you should share with us, right, what you think. So you're coming to tell us, well, the Prime Minister was vexed because of how you deal with the situation with during COVID and the Westmoreland Party and all of these things. But I'm sure it was, from what my understanding is, it started long before that. In how you spoke to the Prime Minister, in your exchanges with the Prime Minister, it was less than respectful, right? Now, Prime Minister would have written to the Police Service Commission expressing that he lost confidence in you. They didn't fire you, as they could have. They didn't suspend you. They pulled you in and they had a conversation with you and so on, resulting in you, Gary Griffith, apologizing publicly to the Prime Minister. Public apology. Why did you apologize? If you were right, if you were in the right, and Keith Rowley was in the wrong, why did you apologize to the Prime Minister publicly? Is it because you were so in love with office and you were afraid that if you didn't do it, you would have lost your work? Or did you recognize, well, okay, in hindsight, that yeah, maybe I'll let my ego get the better of me? But I make the point again, the confidence was once there and it was lost. But you want to blame the Prime Minister and his ego? No, sir. If anybody knows about ego, it's Gary the Great. So he says here, you know, he has the answers to the crime situation. He has the capacity, the ability, the wherewithal. But while he was Minister of National Security, we were hearing about armored trucks, bulletproof tankers coming into the country to do what? They wanted to order, I think, was 6 of these tankers or something like that. Among other things that he wanted to do. But you want to lambast the Prime Minister, Gary, you're serious? You're serious? You brought that on yourself. You keep talking about this 59% confidence in the police service was 59% when you left office, and today it's 8%. How did that happen? If you, as commissioner, as was saying that you were single-handedly responsible for getting confidence in the police service up to 59% without any intervention from the Prime Minister or the political directorate, you, Gary, did it on your own. You did it without help from Rowley. You didn't have any help from Stuart Young. You didn't have any help from Hines or anybody in government. You did it all on your own because you have all of the answers. You have the silver bullet to deal with crime in this country. You were the greatest commissioner of all time. The greatest there ever was, is, and ever will be in Trinidad and Tobago is Gary Griffith as commissioner. Everybody else before you were amateurs. They were, yeah. It was like they were just preparing the office for when Gary the Great came to occupy the seat, right? So if you, Gary, are saying that you single-handedly took the confidence, public confidence rate in the police service of 59%, the highest it had ever been, then without the help of the Prime Minister, then if the public confidence in the police service today is at 8%, why you want to blame the Prime Minister for that? You, based on what you are saying, have demonstrated that the Commissioner of Police could do it on their own. So Erla could do it on her own. Erla and her executive could do it on their own, the same way you did it, without any help from the Prime Minister. So don't blame the Prime Minister for that. Don't blame the Prime Minister for that. Before you, when you left, you say it's when it started on a downward spiral. So you're blaming McDonald Jacob for that too. Again, it had nothing to do with when it is that Parliament put the commissioner or voted to appoint the commissioner have a work to do, as you would have demonstrated. So you are saying the government had no contribution to make in the increase in police confidence, the confidence in the police service while you were there. You did everything. Prime Minister had no involvement, no contribution. The ministers of national security under whom you serve had no involvement. But you want to blame them today for the state of crime? Put the blame where it should go. Because you are saying the commissioner has the power to fix the crime problem without any contribution or any intervention from the government. So why it is you talk, well, you just talk about Erla now and again, you know, talk about Erla, you talk about McDonald Jacob, who they dismantle things that you put in place and whatnot. But you've never addressed the issues surrounding some of your decisions with respect to the number of persons, civilians who were hired in very cushy positions under the TTPS. You never addressed the issue that under your watch there were a number of what can be considered to be extrajudicial killings. The fact that every time one of your officers or some of your officers found themselves in what could be considered or viewed an extrajudicial killing, you were always quick out the block to say, no, my officers came under fire and so forth. But then The killing that took place in Laventille with the 3 guys who were shot up in the TIDA, in the gold TIDA. What was the outcome of that? Remember? Straight out. This is what the officer said, and this is what happened. Even before the investigation started, he done give you a conclusion already that this is what happened. And the facts brought a totally different story. We were told one man fell off a chair in the hospital and sustained injuries that led to the loss of life. So we took him to the hospital. He wasn't feeling well. We took him in for interrogation. He complained of feeling unwell. Took him to the hospital. He sat down on a chair, fall off the chair. And just this simple fall would have resulted in cranial injuries, broken ribs, collapsed lung. Those are just a few of the injuries that were identified by the 2 autopsies that were completed on this guy. So the 2 men who were fingered in the murder of Andrea Barrett both ended up dying as a result of injuries sustained while they were in police custody. Under who? Gary. Did he ever address those 2 issues in great detail to exonerate himself and the TTPS from any allegations of wrongdoing? No, because in that case, the public was incensed with what happened to Andrea. And therefore, however the alleged perpetrators died, we felt that it was par for the course. Where were the defenders of the rights of these individuals to get bail and so on? Where was Jayanti Lakshmi when these 2 men died, before they had an opportunity to have their cases heard? Where was Anand Ramlogan? And all of the other members of the UNC who are strong defenders of the right to bail for persons who are accused of committing murders? Where are they? Where were they when these 2 men died? What about the right to life? Does the right to bail supersede the right to life? So they didn't care about these 2 men because as far as they were concerned, there was no presumption of innocence. These 2 men were considered to be the presumption of guilt. So as far as they were concerned, it's 2 of them kill Andrea. And we are incensed about what happened to Andrea. So we don't care about it. We have no comment to make. None. So if it is, the circumstances surrounding their death is a bit suspicious, it's suspect. We don't care about it. As far as we're concerned, the same people who are today the champions of the presumption of innocence didn't afford these 2 men the presumption of innocence. They didn't have an opportunity to have their day in court. They didn't have an opportunity to be charged with murder and be behind bars such that today they could have applied for bail and come out. They didn't have those opportunities. But I hear nothing from Jayanti and all of them. But today they're singing a different tune. Singing a different tune. So here it is that we have Gary's this report. I mean, you don't want it. What's the difference with it being laid in the parliament and it being laid and the Prime Minister talking about it in public? Now, if it's laid in parliament, it is for the eyes, as far as I'm aware, it is for the eyes of the 41 parliamentarians. Just as, for instance, the report into the Mute report into the Sea Bridge. It was laid in parliament, but if you ask any member of the public today, do you know what was in that report? The majority of them would say no. Save and except for the few of us who would have had opportunity and occasion to read some of it while it was still available on the internet. It's no longer there, because I understand that certain charges may come out of it. So yeah, it's no longer available for reading on the internet. So lay the report in parliament. But you're saying parliament is the only place that you could lie and not get sued. So is it, Gary, that you could give us other instances of persons going to the parliament and lying and not getting sued? Because since you said that is where you could go and lie and not get sued, give us some other instances. Now, you're always quoting Emailgate and Emailgate. Give us other instances. The man who accused Dr. Rowley last night of suffering from diabetes is the same man who came into the parliament on numerous occasions and lied on the Prime Minister. Lied and said it, but he went to Miami to do investigations playing in Inspector Clouseau. He went to Miami, spent his money to investigate the AV drilling matter, and that he had documentary evidence to show a wire transfer for $500,000 US and some bank account that Dr. Rowley had in Miami with the owner of AV drilling. The same Gary, in his capacity as Commissioner of Police, investigated and told us that is not true. No such account exists. Basically calling Monilal a damn blasted liar. But he wouldn't cite that as an example of parliamentarians lying in parliament and not being sued. The same Monilal hold up the picture, tell us this was a picture taken in a house in an office in a house in DB, owned by the head of AV Gillen. And he was shown to be a blasted liar just a couple of days later by Ansel Roger, who would have held up the newspaper article with the picture and showed us, you see, the picture here is seeing this, the couch, look the couch there. You see this, the filing cabinet, look at it. And I'm surprised that Monilal didn't know that. According to Roger, says, I'm surprised Dr. Monilal couldn't identify the office because he has been in this office on numerous occasions. But Gary wouldn't cite that as an example. No, he wouldn't cite that as an example at all. How many times the man who knows about liabilities, the inventor of liabilities, as he says, would have come to the parliament? This is the same man who in 2017 said they have information, his party have information to bring down 4 governments with respect to the AV Gillen matter, and you couldn't bring down 1 government in 2020? But you know about them. These are the people you're happy to be in bed with and want to be a part of government within 2025 again. But apparently they don't lie. No liars on that side. Yeah, so you're happy to be arm in arm with them, be friends with them. You want to form, you're going to democratically remove Dr. Rowley as Prime Minister. To put who? According to Brian. 007? To put Dr. Liabilities back in the parliament, the same doctor, in government, the same Dr. Liabilities, who would have admitted on a public platform that when he was Minister of Housing would have been giving houses to persons who did not qualify, such as the son of a former Chaguanas mayor, admitted that, had no shame to admit that. Meanwhile, you have people who have applied for HEC houses for how much years? Donkey years, and still waiting. But the son of a Chaguanas mayor, with money, he get house, he get HGC house. How Giant he get hers? How did Giant get her HGC house, which she sold within, I think, a record time of 2 years or something after she got it, for a profit? How did she get hers? Money. You had anything to do with that? Asking that question. But poor Gary. Gary, you need to evict Dr. Rowley from your head. Yeah? Right now, you have Dr. Rowley living rent-free up here, Gary. And it's clouding your judgment. You need to give Dr. Rowley an eviction notice and tell him, hit the road. Pack your bags, leave my head, because he living there and it's like, oh gosh, boy. And it's the same thing we keep hearing over and over and over. Under you, this happened, 59%. Police confidence in the police service of 59%. And under you, major crimes were not the lowest it had ever been in 17 years. Well, if you were it means that if you were Commissioner of Police from 2018 to 2021, and you said you brought down certain crimes, major crimes, to the lowest it had been in 17 years. 17 years from 2021 would have been 2004. If we go back 17 years from 2018 would have been 2001. So it means that you were able to bring down major crimes to a lower level than when between 2010 to 2015. But you all were boasting between 2010 to 2015. We have brought down major crimes to the lowest level it's ever been in decades. Decades. 3 decades. That's 30 years. So what you are saying now, Gary, that under you, crime was at the lowest level it had been in 17 years. You didn't say 8 years. You didn't say 10 years. You said 17 years. So if under Kamala, you all brought it down to the lowest it had been in decades, 30 years, 3 decades. But then you're telling us now that you brought it down to the lowest it had been in 17 years. I'm confused. I'm real confused. Because the maths say maths it. Kamala maths and your maths ain't maths it. But you're all in the same stable. It's not maths it. So somebody lying. Because 3 decades, last I checked, is more than 17 years. So, and if Kamala said they brought it down to the lowest level it had been in 3 decades, they came in 2010 to 2015, so going back to 1980s, thereabout, late 80s and so on. And we know what the crime level was back in the day. They didn't have murders the way that we have it today, and other crimes. So your maths and Kamla maths are maths, but then there's Kamla mathematics. The maths do have maths. So we're not surprised. It was the time then I say, I was always get caught up. One more thing I wanted to touch on. I said I'll make that time for on Tuesday morning. Because I'm supposed to get my response today from yesterday was the 20th, yes. So the Cabinet Secretary had called me yesterday and said that the information that I requested with respect to recusals from 2010 to 2015 is ready, and I should collect it today. Fingers crossed. Should make for some interesting reading since it took them almost 6 months to compile. But we are told, as Tessa said last night, they had no recusals under them. Well, all right, we will see. Let me get this here. One more thing. As we are on the topic of Gary. And this was referenced last night by a couple of them, right? Chaos at crossing. Man shoots ex-wife at mall, kills bystander and takes his own life. Amid the mid-morning bustle, Shiraz Ajimula walked to an insurance company's office in San Fernando and shot his ex-wife Anissa Rajgobin Ajimula twice before killing himself after eluding police having escaped from the scene of his crime. Hours before committing suicide, Shiraz had hijacked a car outside the crossing shopping center and killed an innocent bystander, Rosario Ramdan, a 24-year-old Springvale, Claxtonville resident who desired to migrate from TNT with his girlfriend. Dead at Arjun Singh Drive in La Romaine, he apparently committed the same car he stole. Rajgobin Ajimula remains warded in stable condition at the San Fernando General Hospital. Investigators said the tragedy started at 10 a.m. when Rajgobin Ajimula, 47, went to Jenak at Crossing Shopping Center to do business. Police said her ex-husband followed her into the office and asked to speak to her outside. She refused, following which he fired 2 shots, hitting her in the chest. He then fled outside and proceeded to enter a white Tida owned by one Kenton Moses, which was parked outside. Ramdan, who was related to Moses, was sitting in the back seat of the Tida and saw Shiraz as he came running out of the office. Police said Moses was inside the insurance office and ran up to Shiraz and attempted to grab him. However, Shiraz opened fire, hitting Ramdan instead. So it seems that Moses wanted to play hero, to say he saved the day. All right. Bleeding profusely, Ramdan tried to escape and stumbled up the street to avoid more bullets. He collapsed face down on the road about 50 feet away and subsequently died. A worker from the nearby NP gas station said 4 gunshots rang out, 2 inside and 2 outside. I just ducked, I went and right. Police were called in and found Rajgobin Ajimula bleeding inside an office, and while the police processed the scene, Ramdan's girlfriend arrived visibly distraught. Okay. Officers said Shiraz lived in La Romaine with his 2 sons with his ex-wife, while his ex-wife lived in Aripero. Police believe the shooting was premeditated. Well, duh. Officers retrieved 2 spent shells fired from a 9mm semi-automatic pistol and 3 projectiles. Chamber concerned about crime. Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce President Kiran Singh says yesterday's incident at Crossing highlights the escalating crime problem. We cannot condone the evil actions of certain people, and the murder rate is so high. Is it that people have no respect for the law, no respect for elders or people going about their business legally? It is frightening that this could happen in a business place where people go to do official business. He added this is not the way to solve issues between people if they have disputes. And he explained that whenever crime increases, there's a decrease in investor confidence. High crime rates high crime creates fear and causes people to say, why get into business if you will get targeted and robbed? Not a robbery, sir. The business wasn't targeted, sir. This was a domestic dispute that ended, unfortunately, in a murder-suicide. Well, double murder-suicide. As TNT approaches Carnival, Singh said the chamber looks forward to increased police patrols in the city. Interestingly, I visited when I visit, you was Gary the Great's voice note or whatever it is that I picked up. Because I went to see if he had any comment to make on this killing. Because as you know, he says, and I was curious. I wanted to know the gun that was used in this murder, suicide. Was it a legal firearm? Did Shiraz was Shiraz the owner of an FUL? It would be interesting if the police could tell us that. Because according to Gary, no gun that was issued under him was ever used in any crime and whatnot and the like and so forth. Even though the statistics would bear out something differently. Right? I recall there was a gentleman who had several firearms, several FULs, who would have shot up his wife in San Fernando as well. Was it last year? Or I think it was sometime last year, early last year. He would have killed his wife because with FULs that would have been issued between 2018 to 2021. So I'm curious as to whether this guy had a legal firearm, whether he was the holder of a firearm user's license. But further to that, load up the Matic, knock it, pull it back, knock it on them and knock it again. Because the solution to crime, the solution to home invasions is to give law-abiding citizens easy access to firearm users' licenses. Yeah, get them gun. Get them gun. So when husband and wife have a falling out, when the wife leaves the husband for whatever reason, and he can't take it, right? And this happened. That wouldn't happen when you give law-abiding citizens firearm users licenses. That wouldn't happen. Things like these, This is once in a while. Get a gun. I will solve the problem. So 2 people were killed. Well, 2 people died. 1 innocent bystander got shot. Poor boy, 24 years old, had to do with the whole fracas. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Wrong place, wrong time. If it is his cousin or whoever had decided to go to Janak earlier in the morning or later in the day or on another day, he might have still been alive today. But the Bible talks about time and circumstance. Maybe it was his time. And that was probably the way that he was supposed to go. But wrong place, wrong time. Because some fella can't handle it a banker and decide, well, if I can't have you, nobody else can have it. 2 hours we had it there. It took him a while, apparently. We tried to decide what to do. Right? To make a jail, once alone in jail. Somebody apparently he didn't get the memo, but don't worry yourself, you would get bail. Janty or Anna, one of them here in South. You have to just go to either one of them and they would have get you. They could have just said, well, the man and his wife, he was not the right frame of mind at the time. He wasn't thinking straight, he was overwhelmed by emotions. He wanted his wife back and he wasn't in the right frame of mind, and it happened, Your Honor, but he's not really a menace to society. It's not like he's going to rob anybody or just to invade homes and kill people. It was just this one incident. So she's the only person that he wanted to kill. The young boy who got killed, Rosario, it wasn't intentional. He just happened to pick up a bullet. He got killed, but 2 bullets, in fact. But in terms of Mr. Shiraz being a menace to society and being a threat to society, no, he's just a threat to his ex-wife. And if she survives, you could give him bail so he could make a second attempt. He didn't succeed the first time. So the only concern we have is that he might go to try and finish the work because she had to bed. And but otherwise, that no other citizens really had risk from him. Just the wife, the ex-wife. So, but we could probably put an ankle bracelet on him so we could monitor. So if she's still in hospital and the police detect that he's close to the hospital, well, they know what he's going to do. He's going to try to finish the job. And when she comes out of the hospital, we will put an ankle bracelet on her too. So if we realize that both persons are in close proximity of each other and they're not supposed to be, but we know he's looking to go and finish the work. So really, it's only one life in danger by giving him bail. But that's all right. We could put things in place to ensure that he don't finish the work. But otherwise, that he good. That's Jayanti logic and Ram Logan logic. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. So we can give him bail. Yeah, he's not a threat. He's only a threat to one person. And that's all right. Yeah. So he didn't have to kill himself. He killed himself for you wouldn't go in prison. The only cell you would probably be might have spent a night or 2 in the San Fernando police station, but that's about it. After that, what's your thing good? If your firearm legal, then you probably have a little paper. So you could afford bail. And you could have been back outside happy like papi. And you could keep your fingers crossed and hope you work finished so you'll be charged for double murder, but that's all right. That's okay. They're entitled to the right to access bail. Shouldn't have to be. Well, we load up the matic and give everybody gun. That's the solution to crime. Right? Give everybody gun. I wonder what come. You feel come never talk about that. Should just mention, you see, there was an incident. But to go in depth and talk about it, because this particular incident flies in the face of what they have been telling us for the last few months, that the solution to crime is to give everybody gun. Make it easier for the law-abiding citizens. Up until yesterday, Shiraz was a law-abiding citizen. Up until yesterday. As far as we know, he was of sound mind up until yesterday. And all it took for him to go from being a law-abiding citizen to a non-law-abiding citizen was Tabanka. How many times have we heard about it? How many times have we heard about it? Tabanka causes man to go from law-abiding to non-law-abiding. That's all it takes. One horn could do that. I'm not saying that that's what happened in this case. For whatever reason, the wife didn't want no dealings with him, the ex-wife and stuff. Right, but he couldn't let go. She let go and he couldn't. You think you will hear him talk about that? Wait. I bet you. No mention of that. Because that goes against load up the matic. That goes against, we will make it easier for law-abiding citizens to access firearm users' licenses. Yeah. That goes against their argument to solve crime, which is one of the arguments or one of the strategies that they want to put on the table with these crime talks, to tell the government, make it easier for law-abiding citizens. Strike one. So they're not going to bring this back up again. I bet you. Watch and you will see. What if it was a robbery? I hear a different story. So to the president of the Greater San Fernando Chamber, ease me up now, sir. Ease us up now. Right? Chalk and cheese. Put this thing on here. Turn this off here. See, I was of two minds to do this live this morning, I know it was going to set my back. Anyway, 7701763. Let me see if I can wrap up by 8:30. I might still be able to make my appointment. Connect this here. Where is it? I'm seeing where the trolls. Is that troll here on Facebook? Let me see. Let's connect this here. Hello, good morning. Morning.
What did PNM? What did you get the cool to PNM? PNM for he carry wife. What the crew?
Yes.
Yes, sir? I mean, all right, she gets born. PNM maybe one honey wife, if that's the case. I was PNM for the crime happened. UNC document crime. Indian document crime. So what is that? Pass it on empty water gun.
Yes.
Stealing a car is a crime. So it's double crime, not just the murder, and the car was stolen. So what the crew? Hey, Olia, I'm dead. Yeah, if you go to people's home, right, dictating marriage, guess what? To the dictator. How does they always know that what is a dictator? I must have self-control. You do me something, Dominic, in my home, I deal with you.
Yes.
Okay? But I cannot tell a man how to behave. Earlier, put your hands in the game, live in any man's mind. You must know, right, you hurt me, I must walk away. I must control me. If you control me, I am your puppet. And you know, it's like children playing adults. Gary, I tell you, grow up. You are Geraldine, you're a woman, you are scorned. You have been rejected. You took a mile of feces and Dominic Gallagher did some funny page. I'm going to make some condoms for my ears and you were going to help out? I'm serious.
Yeah, we can try.
And Mookie Liar and Ian Roberts, I have to beat an acid. Mookie Liar, you talk about the PM being away for how many days? Can you count for it out? You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 makes a week. If you don't know basic math, how the hell you want to be in parliament? You are disrespectful. And you are a wholesale diarrhea of this country. I'm trying very hard to people like that. I have to watch my words. What is wrong with you? You have been scorned. Nobody wants you. You lie for life's sake. You are truth of bitter enemy. And if anybody keeps saying this, to vote you and they in, you look for that. Don't be blessed. Have a good day tomorrow and for the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So I'm seeing on Facebook here, somebody named Kendall Alfonso. He says, PNM is the biggest criminals in our country because we can get our host to debunk the PNM lies like you. Really? Well, why don't you do it? This program we've been doing this live since March, Mr. Alfonso, and up to now, well, I can't find. I know every time persons like you come on the live, I always say, tell us what are the PNM lies or any lies that we tell here. And every time I throw that challenge, not one of you could ever come and debunk the so-called PNM lies. He goes on to say, UNC was never in public office for no big length of time. The UNC served for 11 years. Who created ghost gangs? Who created ghost gangs, sir? Who created the ghost gangs? Tell us now, you ever heard a guy by the name of Sean Bill Francis, who Mr. Pandey labeled a community leader? You ever heard of that name? Mr. Sean Bill Francis, who is deceased today, but who also represented the UNC as a candidate in a local government election. You ever heard that name, sir? He goes on to say, remember what Dolce and Abu Bakr say about PNM officials? What did they say? What did they say? Selwyn Richardson, who was a Minister of National Security, was shot and killed at his home assassination style. Anyone got arrested? Listen, they should lock you up, PNM officials. Let me ask you something. 1 second, Brian. Dhanraj Singh, you remember that name, Mr. Alfonso? Dhanraj Singh was a Minister of Government who slapped a senior police officer, right? Why was Dhanraj Singh branded the sheriff? Remember that? You ever heard of the name of, you remember the man that Dhanraj Singh was accused of murdering? Former chairman of the Rio Claro, the Mayor Rio Claro Corporation. Remember that? Man by the name of Dhanraj Singh, remember he? How many, you remember Mr. Pandey coming before the court? Before he became Prime Minister, he was on charges. He was before the court for certain sexual charges. Remember that? Says PNM officials and their partners, UNC officials, close our borders from Venezuelans coming in here illegally. Which member of parliament is currently before the police, subject of an investigation for human trafficking? Tell us that now, Mr. Alfonso. PNM, member of parliament, accused of human trafficking, prostitution. You see, all it is, you're convenient with your nonsense. Yeah, very, very convenient with your nonsense. Or we see through you guys. Dana Sitahal. You want to talk about Dana? Dana Sitahal was assassinated. Yes? Same way you want to talk about Selwyn Richardson. Dana Sitahal, who was at the time special prosecutor in the murder case involving Vinjan Naipaul Kuhlman. Yeah? She was assassinated. They followed her from Mapao. So they would have been monitoring her movements for a while. And we saw what happened. The kind of, the way that this whole thing went about, the planning that went into this thing, up to now, who are the perpetrators of that? Tell us about, since you want to talk Selwyn Richardson, let us talk Dana Sita-Hall. That happened between 2010 and 2015 under the PP. That happened, Mr. Alfonso. You want to talk about that? Who killed Dana Sita-Hall? The PNM did that, and they were in office. They had cause to kill Dana Sita-Hall. When it is you all want to come here with your nonsense, don't open no can of worms that you can't close back. All right? So let me just put that to you. You want to talk about the TNT beat USA 2-1. We can talk about that. Congratulations to the Soca Warriors. Well done. A well-played match, right? So here it is that I was 2019, no, not 2019, sorry, 1989. Yeah, 34 years later. So we even the score. Almost 34 years to the day. So congratulations to the Soca Warriors. And I'm sure that the strike squad would have been very happy at that result. And let me say good morning to Mr. Chance. So Mr. Chance starring in one of the newspapers. So the picture. Well done, Mr. Chance. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I should know that, but I must say, sir, when it comes to fashion, yeah. You know your thing. I love the shoot. Very, very nice. For those of you who may not have seen the picture. Well done to you, sir. I don't know if you picked that shirt, you picked that whole outfit, but it was well put together, if the wife was responsible for that. But whoever, kudos to you. I give you 10 out of 10 for that. But I just wanted to tell Mr. Alfonso that when you want to come and talk about these things, that the UNC wasn't in public office for no big length of time. We're in office for 11 years. And in that 11 years, some of the biggest crimes took place. The Piarco Airport, dubbed by a Canadian forensic auditor as and this is Bob Lindquist, I'm quoting here, who described the Piarco Airport scandal as the largest, the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago by its government. Those are the words of Robert Lindquist, a Canadian, not a Trini. So he has no horse in the race. He said that in the space of just 2 months of investigation, he was amazed at the level of corruption involved in that a hammer costing $20-something thousand and a simple door costing $400 and something thousand. But you all would prefer if it is that we ignore that and we forget that, right? And only talk about the PNM and the PNM and the PNM. Yeah, that's all their problem. That we ignored. UNC was only in office for a short period of time, 11 years. Right? One man gets $34 million. Not a stick of chalk, not a duster, pen or a pencil. You and I have no problem with that. Life Spark program went from 6 million to 400 million. You ain't have no problem with that. With companies like the name Dustbin Divers getting millions of dollars in contracts, $58 million spent on catering in the space of 18 months. You don't want to talk about that. You're not interested. $789 million in housing cannot be found. Not one house could be found. But you have no issues with that. But coming to talk nonsense, but the UNC wasn't in office for no big length of time. We should say, thank God, the UNC was not in office in this country for no big length of time. Because if in 11 years they could perpetrate that level of fraud on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, imagine what they could have done if they were in office for a longer period of time, sir. But anyway, Brian, morning. You see, I should have followed my mind and don't do no damn life this morning. Anyway, good morning, sir.
Dominic, I'll tell you this. Well, actually, I went out last night because you don't turn down free beers. So I miss every damn thing. I miss football, I miss everything. But you don't turn down free beers. So I apologize. And there's a lot of news last night from what I gathered this morning. You know, but Mr. Alfonso may have been one of those who may have benefited under the UNC to keep him more quiet. $1 million and them kind of, all those who benefited under the UNC.
Yes.
Who not in the papers. He may have been one. So for him to come on your live to give an excuse that they weren't there for so long, as they rightly said, thank God they would, because we have over $100 billion missing, Mr. Alfonso, that cannot be accounted for. We have houses that were supposed to have been built and money paid out that a prominent audited firm cannot account for. We have money borrowed to pave agricultural roads that were paid out, and nobody can find the roads yet. So you continue, Mr. Alfonso, likes of you, sir, continue with your stupidity, but we will continue to remind the likes of you about money spent, money paid out, and nothing to show for it by the hundreds of millions of dollars, sir. We will continue to remind you all, because apparently all your memory short like you. But it's okay. You see, I've always said, Dominic, when they don't come out your pocket directly, you don't feel it. You understand? You only feel it when you know you can't go over a pothole.
Yes.
And you say, oh God, the government is doing nothing about this pothole. I told you Sunday that Britain putting out $8 billion to pay pothole. And they were told, no, it's not enough. They put out $14 billion. That is Britain. You understand?
Yes.
And they have money crunch too, because people studying whether to buy food or to pay for energy. Which comes first? Food or energy? Because it's getting cold. But Dominic, what I want to talk about is Mr. Kiran Singh, because he was on the news again this morning on TV6. No, sorry, on UNC3. And DW was telling, I felt your pain last night. Apparently, he was on the news last night. And I said I wasn't home.
Yeah, I saw him on the news last night.
Right. So GW was saying, I saw the pain in your face. Apparently, Mr. Kiran Singh has only feel pain when something happening south. But when you have all that shooting on the east-west corridor, them don't feel pain. And you're right to ask the question. I wonder if that gun that he used on his ex-wife or his wife, or whoever it was he shot, was it a stolen gun? Or was it a legal firearm used? I would love to know. I would like to ask Mr. Kiran, or anybody who is listening this morning, to ask Mr. Kiran Singh to find out whether that was a legal firearm or not. And when he walked into the insurance business place and shot his wife, tell us, was it a legal firearm, yes or no? Because he must know it's all former, I don't want to say commissioner, I want to say member of the defense force. Because as far as I concerned, he was no commissioner for me. Right? I would like to ask him whether or not one of those firearms that he gave okay to one of those dealers to bring in. Understand? Because people are understanding that there is a problem in this country with firearms, be it coming through the main door legally or not. Because why it is people would spend billions of dollars. One man wants to bring in 3.6 million assortment of ammunition and has already sent a letter to the commissioner giving her 28 days to give cause as the reason why he should not. 28 days is less by now. And nobody asks any question. Why would one man want to do that? And you have many other dealers, new dealers, that bring in firearms, a plethora of firearms and ammunition, assortment of ammunition, and giving lame reasons as to why he's bringing in that type of ammunition. Why? What is he? Who is he selling it to? It's not the army, it's not the police. Who is he selling it to? And people are asking themselves these questions. There are going to be more murders with Kiran Singh in South. So don't twist up your face like I hear you twist up your face last night. Because when you have people like Gary Griffith and so on and his cohorts around, that is what you're going to get. I already told you all, it is going to come home by your doorstep one of these days. And what are you going to say? Here called Gary Griffith's name last night. Here called Kamla Prasad. The load up your matic and empty your clip. Here talk about that yesterday, or here talk about that this morning apparently. It's a boring he. But that is what you're going to get. That is the end result of guns coming in the country. People are going to shoot to kill. They're not going to shoot to maim. They shoot near your foot, in your hand. They shoot in your chest. So his wife is in the hospital now with 2 bullet holes in her chest. But she got by, she was at work. She wasn't home. It was at work, and the people who were working with them will be traumatized to know that a man could walk in a business place and pump 2 bullets in your colleague's chest. But that is what all you're buying wholesale. I feel no pain whatsoever, I am sorry to say. Because this is what, when all you don't talk about it, and talking about the government and the minister has to go, and the minister of national security has to go, and the prime minister this and the prime minister that. And people who talking about the prime minister and the minister of national security have matters before the court. All they ain't talking about them. They have criminal matters before the court. And what are they saying about it? Absolutely nothing. Don't blame this government. There's nobody in this government who before the court. Gary Griffith doesn't want a certain document read out. I only must ask yourself why. Picture the honorable prime minister though going to court to stop a document about him being read out. Think about that for 1 second. Only going to ask the questions left, right, and center. Why? Why it is only the one that document read out? But Gary Griffith, he had no problem. He had nothing to answer. You understand? So we don't want to hear, really. But that is the end result of what happened yesterday, Mr. Kiran Singh. 2 bullets in her chest. How only 1 visitor in the hospital? Because there's the other guy who got shot was going about his normal business, not bothering anybody. A casualty of these firearms and ammunition that all you don't have a problem with apparently. And according to Ms. Jairam from the Faizabad business sector, she had no problem with it. She said so on the television, on TV6 a week ago. I have no problem with guns. I wonder what she's saying today. Call her Mr. Kiran Singh, call up your colleague from Faizabad business, Ms. Jairam, and ask her what she's saying today. I have told you all, there's no good ending to these things when you have guns coming in this way. Once I have gun, you will shoot. Once you get vexed, once you get a little, according to you, Dominic, a little tabanka, you're going to shoot. And that is the end result of it. So don't feel disturbed with Kiran Singh. This is what all you wanted. This is what all you're going to get. So look at big up Gary and make Gary feel he's so great. And what he did was so good. And this will be the end result because there is no coming to our doorsteps down in South. Have a good day, sir. Enjoy your trip. Maybe I will hear you on Thursday if I can get more free beers. All the best.
Oh boy. 7701763. The lines are open. Perhaps Mr. Alfonso can call in. Yeah, feel free. 7701763. Don't just type. Call in and make your point. Yeah, Hansraj Sumer Singh. Why don't talk to his family? Who killed him? All right. The UNC was the best thing since Saipan. Why? Because they were only in office for 11 years. They weren't here for any big set of time. Okay, and in the 11 years, 5 years, 2010 to 2015, took the exchequer account from 10 billion in overdraft to 33 billion. I wonder if I wonder if Mr. Alfonso could do the maths and tell us how much interest this government has paid on that overdraft for the last 8 years. That extra 23 billion, Mr. Alfonso. That interest that could have been used to build school and pave road and buy hospital beds. Maybe you could do some quick maths for us and tell us how much interest the state paid on that. Because you all were concerned between 2010 to 2015 when that was happening. All we know, what we get from it. But the long-term effects of having to pay back, which this government can't because they're making the income. Anyway, so let me get this here. Hello, good morning.
Dominic, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Morning. Well, Sunday I listen, but I think I'm going to listen and so all these people give the contribution and everybody, or always on math.
Yes.
But my thing is that this crime talk that I listen to that Clifford Kamala Prasad, etc., and she pushing this crime talk and get the criminals, but Gary and what kind of stuff. And you correctly said it. I mean, it's common sense. But I see no reason for Gary to be in anything. Gary is not in the parliament, not anything. And Kamala didn't support him to be police commissioner. She fired him as national security minister. She moved him as the advisor to the prime minister. What Gary did then with all these positions that he had, and when he became COP, had an impact on crime that we could talk about. I mean, it became rubbish that was talking about like underage crime was wrong. Underage crime was wrong was country and state that he was just lockdown. And crime goes down. That's rubbish. That's just a fool people's mind. Crime never goes to place right there. Same killers and them there, the same problem there. It's because you cannot move around in a state of emergency when it's supposed to be inside. Right? Because police passing, seeing a strange vehicle, moving anything, they will always stop it. They do it all the time in a state of emergency. It gives the police enough power to stop and hold it and waste your time and do all kind of things. And they can't go and complain to the police complaints and them and tell them that because first of all, you're not supposed to be outside. So to tell me that crime went down is just you're trying to fool. Next thing I want to say is that Ms. Kamala Prasad, the opposition, has an opportunity to contribute towards the crime in the parliament when bills come before them. And they do it seriously, you can punch holes in it and fix things. And we go there. Ms. Kamala and them will say that, we can do this and do that and that, and they go in here and they do good. But they tell you plan, they're not supporting anything. And when the bills come and they fool around, their contribution to the influence, Udlan over this 21, I don't know who tell me he's a comedian. And if he feels he's a comedian, then come out of the parliament and go and take them fellas and them out with the comedy best. But you have these people there contribute nothing, does nothing, but you want to sit on there and they can't talk. You waste people's time and just you have people talking about the government out there saying and the government can do what? If the government hasn't ready to fix the crime, because a lot of people think that if the crime is just bad boys shooting one another, You know what it's crime? The majority of the crime is here are MP that the Americans and the intelligence telling us, hey, there is an MP in that parliament sitting down there and we watching him. He in human trafficking. America cannot get involved in our justice system just like that. So we are a sovereign country. But if it's based on their intelligence, they can tell you that you think you should be doing something about it. But you come in to talk about crime. You come in to take crime, and that's set up so you bring in the around the paper and then to people of interest in police. You want to talk crime with people of interest in police? Nah, you can't be serious at all. They're not supposed to be around you. If you are going to be a serious leader, and if you're going to waste any time and just be frustrating Dr. Rowley, and that's why Dr. Rowley just don't take them out of what he is asking the question. That is why he answers like that, because the media them is not running with the facts of the story that Kamala Prasad is wasting the people's time.
Because if she wants to talk about crime, want to do something, you need to bring Gary there. If Gary have a good point that you want to raise and bring Gary point. I don't see why Dr. Rolly has to go and sit down with a thing to talk. You understand? Dr. Lee currently said it, that Ms. Kamala Prasad is recognized that she is the official opposition leader. If she needs to speak with the opposition, with the Prime Minister, she has avenues that she could do it. All she does is pick up his phone and ask her to converse with Dr. Rolly and meet somewhere and sit down and they talk. But they saw that Garavantin and the nonsense that they're pushing that Dr. Rolly thing and all that, and Gary's this big superhero, a big failure in every endeavor that he went from the army right back to the political party here today. So total failure. And the man has questions to answer. On top of that now, you want Dr. Rolly to say with a man who has been he has been put to the National Security Council, so he given trouble. He's a troublemaker. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. He can't control it. Ask him to come to sit down and meeting. I just telling the head of the National Security Council that you can't summon me and no Prime Minister. You jump to Prime Minister and all that sort of thing. The National Security Council, you sit as part of the council together with the Fire Service, Customs, and the other departments of national security. You head the police service. Go and sit down with something, but no. You know why he don't want to go? They don't want to go and sing it because Dr. Oli, I think every time, have gotten the information and wanted to talk to him to get his side of the story, and he refused to do it. That's the reason why he played running there every minute in the court to play blocking all kind of things. But you can't get any way under this opposition that we have if you have to fight the crime. The government has to take it on their own and fight the crime on their own because there's no support from the opposition when they come to fight the crime. And all they're doing, that's all the strong point that they have now because there's no point that they can raise to get political points. They're only using the crime as that, and they will sabotage the system. They will give charge criminals bail. They'll do anything, and then they'll turn around and blame the government. Look at that. Look at the murder rate and the murder rate. And they're happy because we will get fed up by the government, and then we go vote on the government. So let's Kamala Prasad the wait on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So 3 more minutes to go. Yeah, let me see. Yes, Priscilla. Well, actually, I'm going to take advantage of the Black Friday sale. Yeah. Thanksgiving, everywhere closed, so you can't really do nothing much. Unless you're with my family or something and eating turkey and the like.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
The family going back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah.
Listen, Alfonso, what I called to tell you, Alfonso was there was a Rick Ballard challenge. He always right to say, oh, we lied. But they never came back. To challenge you on it.
Yes.
So that's right. And we know they're lying. Because they always say, well, we lie when you ask. Nobody says.
Correct.
Yeah. And what there's a lot of people say, I'm on the other. I'm reading on Toronto Civilian News. That's got a whole a building full of cars.
Full of what?
To be shipped out. And they're not only stealing cars, they're just hijacking you every day, every single day.
Wow.
So like if Trinidad is the only country with crime. It's all over the world. That's why they put out in the red. And I'm calling for these 2 people. Or they could call them, they can challenge it. So let's have a nice debate. And see who greatest liar. Thanks, Dominic. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Jenny, morning.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
one don't know so locked on and tuning into facts and stubborn things. I almost missed your show this morning, boy. I guess it will be, I heard just the end there's something to do with Gary Griffith and probably what he would have, his response to Dr. Rowley.
Yes.
When you listen to Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, you hear sober, logical thinking. You stay quiet and you listen because he has something to say. Mm-hmm. And there's always something in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. And when he finishes and you walk away, you feel comfortable. You feel assured that you have a leader who will seek the interests of all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. When you listen to Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the opposition, you do not feel like that. You feel riled up. You feel angry. You feel concerned. And the same thing when you listen to Gary Griffith. He could never be serious about wanting to solve crime in this country or to hold any position again to help solve crime. He sounds childish. He sounds insecure. And every time you have to speak and you have to always say what you, and it's about you, and it's about you, and about you. It's I. It tells me that you have some type of issue of insecurity because there's an I also.
Yes.
And we cannot have people like that continuing in the society in a time when we're having so much challenge with crime. That is about I. I built this. I study here. I had a plan. I under me. It was this. I say this, I say that. And it's just like hand. We need to be very careful with what we allow in our space now. Dr. Rowley gave a comprehensive view or a comprehensive what he did, a report on what happened when he went out to Saudi Arabia. And every time he comes back from this overseas trip, that is what he does. And it's nothing to do with I. It has to do with Trinidad and Tobago. Mm-hmm. Every single time. When the opposition went abroad, when they were in office, it was just about a travel. First class travel, and they went traveling all over. It's just like Fali right now in the Tobago House of Assembly. They're just traveling, dressing and traveling, but cannot report and account to the people of Tobago and Trinidad what they have been doing. So I leave Gary right there with that. And I hope people are sensible and intelligent enough and exercise emotional intelligence to sift out the nonsense from the sense. All you have to do is take out the N-O-N and you have sense. Yeah. I just finally, I am still amazed that there's still a conversation, even up to this moment, about a man who takes 3 verses of the anthem, the whole anthem, put it to the start of his soca, and then continue with happy, and we happy and all that. And people are still having a conversation about that to tell me, a patriotic, conscious, proud citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, that is okay. I totally reject that. And I too have the same thought of what the Prime Minister said yesterday, that I hope that people understand that this anthem we have, I'm putting my way now, this anthem we have is something to be proud of. Because you can't tell me you will see our sportsmen or women or anybody who has done anything great and won any medal or anything in this country, and they stand on a podium internationally, and you play that version of that song. Because we basically tell them, okay, you can sing it, but then let that take place at the anthem, how it is done. And let us, when we go in the parade for independence and be watching them on TV, let them play that. When they're hoisting the flag in any military area or any occasion that has to be hoisted. Let it play that because it's all right. That's all they're trying to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't stop the small thing, that's how big things does happen. And that's a disrespect. And when the young ones disrespect me, you want to know why. Because you can't tell them in no school literature now. When they hear the anthem, to stand at no attention. When they see people whining at it in effect. Those are the images we send into people. And I find the creator of that song should have known better. So it tells me something. It's another Gary, another Watson, another Fanny, and it goes on and on that we see in there. So I'm like, you have a blessed one. Go on your flight safely. Bring back some snow if it's snowing in a bottle somewhere. Have a good time.
Thank you, Jen.
Everybody have a blessed one.
Last one. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Dominic.
Sir, morning.
Morning. Good up and eat it, turkey boy. Well, Dominic, what I call for, right? Dominic, let me tell you something. This is politics, right? UNC have nothing to go in the 2025 general election on because Dr. Rowley has outperformed them. The government has outperformed the opposition, and all they have to go in with is crime. So what they are doing, they were not going to support nothing to help with the crime situation. And they said that they will not support anything the government bring. So this crime talk that the president come up with, we know the UNC was not coming to the table because they have to go into the general election with something. Right, Dominic? And also, Dominic, Dr. Rowley came back from Saudi Arabia. UNC PR committee was asking to give an update when he had a press conference. And we have some oil deals coming up, which was he's going away to Houston or Texas, somewhere around there.
Yes.
To sign something else. And then after, in Venezuela here, we're supposed to get the license to go ahead. Right? So, Dominic, this government here is working for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we are seeing the sustainability of what Dr. Rowley and this government is doing. And they are creating a lot of employment for the youth, right? So this is the government that I think the people should stick with. Do not shift because the UNC have nothing to offer since 2010. Now, they have not shown nothing that will try to help the people. So don't mind them with that old talk, right? And Guy Griffith is not a parliamentarian, so he cannot be included in that talk because if you listen to the letter that Dr. Rowley stated, it marked parliamentarians, and he is not. So you could tell that UNC did not want to meet on that table if you name somebody outside of the parliament. That's the game they are playing, right, Dominic? So you have a safe trip, bro.
Thank you,
Looking forward when you come back, right?
Yeah,
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you. So I went to my 8 minutes. Folks, thank you all so much. As I said, I have to run this morning. Some stuff to do, but yeah. So I will make an effort to see if I could still jump on Tuesday before I leave. And there's so many things to talk about. I still need to give a comprehensive overview of the resumption of the Monday night forum. They could call it what they want, Monday night report, Monday. For us, it's Monday night forum because when we listen to the content coming out of that, it's only rum could inform that level of discourse. Rum and other things, that could, nothing else, and idiocy. So, thank you so much, Jenny. Yes. Belize Fornelius says UNC was out, folks, for the past years by the PM, and that's for sure. Yes, thank you guys so much. I will. So I wouldn't be out that long, but I tend to enjoy the trip. Should be the last trip for the year. even though they tried to entice me to do another one in December, but we'll see how that goes. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Thank you all so much. And let me see if I will get my package today. I'll go through it. Well, depending on what it have in it, I might jump out myself and do a live tomorrow. But I don't like to encroach on Sharon and Bruce time now. I know it might be difficult for you all to listen to me too, but we will see how that pans out. So if anything, certainly let me see what I could do on Thursday morning, and then we'll after that until next week. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we will chat again very soon. Anand says, "Thought you were poor and hungry, truly travel." Not me at all. Not me. I that claim cried, no trouble and sufferation and eating grass and all of them. All of them hypocrites and liars. Eating and drinking the best, but quick to jump on social media and talk about how they're suffering. Right. Thank you guys so much. We will chat again, most likely Tuesday.